I'm Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation. I have Cathy Gordon, one of my favorite nurse midwives on the planet, with me today. We had so much fun catching up. I was like, I would love to do another, you have so much knowledge in your head, another YouTube recording, just you and I. You have such a background with the CABC, the Commission of Accrediting Birth Center, and their process, their appeals, their indicators. I know you're going to put your disclaimer that you're not representing their current statement, but just your knowledge and expertise to help a lot of these ladies, particularly the birth advocates that aren't midwives, and they're trying to read these indicators and they want to be very thorough when someone comes on site. Did I interpret this correctly? So thank you, Cathy, for joining me today.
Sure. I truly value accreditation. I think it's one of the things that all of the birth centers can say and look at, saying, we have reviewers that actually believe and document that we're doing safe birth within our scope. And accreditation helps set you up for that. And it also covers a lot of things that we don't think about. We don't think about, oh, do we need to have certain outlets in our kitchen or around our birth tubs, things like that. We just don't think about it because our job as midwives is to catch that baby, to love on that family, and to experience that new family as they try to figure things out and navigate their lives together. So accreditation is so important, but it can be also kind of hard to do. And I served for about 10 years on the accreditation board. I loved every moment of it. I'm currently not serving, so their position statements may have changed and indicators, I'm sure, have updated. I was on the indicators committee, which was probably what I consider the hardest committee to be on, because it never, ever stopped. And it constantly changed, and it changes based on research. And y'all might remember, like, the birth curve changed. We had the old-fashioned birth curve, the Friedman curve, where, after a certain amount of time at a certain dilation, if you didn't have change, then by golly, you need to transport for augmentation or whatever, right? And now the labor curve is based on different factors. Well, that caused the indicator committee to change. Neonatal resuscitation changed over the years. And so, again, we would adapt those changes constantly to the accreditation indicators. So accreditation is valuable. The indicators can be a little tricky because it's all depending on how you look at them and answer the question, but they're really there to help you have a really safe and successful model of caring for families. So I love it. And I think they're easy to obtain and easy to be successful with. It's just adapting to that. And I think they're there to help birth centers be very, very successful with their families. So I love it. And we were just talking about life safety codes or fire safety codes, and evacuating a building if it's on the 10th floor. And, that can be a problem if you have a big fire on the 2nd floor and you've got mom in labor upstairs. How do you safely evacuate them? There's easy ways to answer that questions, and there's hard ways to answer that questions because you can't use the elevator. But what's your plan? That's the simple way of saying that's how you answer the indicators, is what's your plan? And you put it in your policy and you review it with your staff and go, this is our plan. Hey, let's practice, because you probably won't ever use it. So you practice it to make sure everybody knows, just in case you have it. So I hope that's a little helpful. I love accreditation. I would like to see every birth center accredited.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to accreditation, not just a stamp and seal. So the consumers have a certain standard. The insurance companies, if you're in a state where there's no regulations, it helps you. Now you've got a licensure because you can't get one in the state. There's a lot of benefits. Some of the states, they just say, like, I love Minnesota. You literally just have to get CABC and then you're done. Like, it's my favorite state out of I was like, if every state would do it like Minnesota, oh, the birth centers we could have. But and some of them are a little stricter. They're above and beyond CABC, but you just have to know your state and local standards. But national certification, it just gives you, to the hospital community, the EMS, to the community, it just gives a level of standard. I hit this benchmark, because if they don't have that and there is no state licensures, how do they know what benchmark you're rating your services and your birth center at?
Absolutely. And I live in Kansas, and I had some birth centers in Kansas, and we go through licensure of Kansas, and then we also did the accreditation. And one of our goals was, why do we have to have all these extra reviews? Remove the licensure. And so now it's more like that. If you're accredited, the licensure reviews don't have to happen because they're lesser than the accreditation. And one would think that every state could have this great example, but the other part of it is insurance providers, so the third party payer, if you choose to go that route, oftentimes will not contract with you unless you're accredited. So that's a big deal, because we want the higher margin of pay to come into our facilities. And without accreditation in Kansas, a lot of them can't get it. So accreditation, it was beneficial in multiple factors for our state in Kansas, but Missouri, different story.
Yeah, Missouri. I mean, even just I saw the recent AABC update that Alabama has got some backwards things they're trying to pass with the bill. So every state is different. Some states are easier for birth centers. Some you have to have the accreditation. Some it's an elective. Some it'll really. I mean, I would love to see more and more so we can set a higher benchmark. But yeah, people get overwhelmed with the accreditation process. Like, how much is it going to cost? What does the process look like? And I know you and I have helped so many people through it that it could be 3 months, it could be 9 months. It more is your timeline and your resources, because people get overwhelmed with the paperwork side. If you want to expand on that a bit.
The paperwork side is ridiculous. However, it's not. So once you get it established, it's a matter of making sure you implement and maintain. And it's an organizational factor, doing fire drills, that's a requirement in businesses, in hospitals, and anything that's licensed or regulated, that's a requirement. So it's just practicing and making it, one of the things I did is saying, every time you have a staff meeting, do a fire drill. You know what I mean? It's things like that. And then put on your calendar, what emergency drills you're going to do. So you practice those things. And, one of the things I always looked at is, and I remember having conversations with other entities like hospitals or pediatricians, obstetricians in joint committee meetings with multiple hospitals. I'm sitting in there and I'm the only birth center, I'm the only midwife, and they'll get into this idea of safety. And I go, we're accredited just like the hospital. And they go, they always stop and look at that. And I go, we follow the same rules. Our license says we have to do X, Y, Z, and we follow the same rules that you all do. However, I always go like this: sign here if you want it, sign here if you don't, because we don't force families to do things to their baby that they're against, like vitamin K, but we say we go through the informed consent. And if they don't want it, then we want them to sign an agreement that says they're not going to do it. And it's no different than the hospital. And a lot of times it's understanding that language and accreditation and how that does, and doing the paperwork to say, I can value what you think I'm not by showing you the paperwork. So the paperwork is a lot of work. I get that, but it's really valuable. It will get you farther in your community in safety primarily, and advocacy and payments. And so you will actually grow a bigger practice through accreditation if you just
and long-term sustainability, risk reduction. With our consulting services, to add a little plug, it's not just teaching you how to do the accreditation. We have packages and resources for all the indicator policies, consents, agreements. So 90% of your work is done. You just have to customize it to your local needs.
That's
and so
right.
We've been really trying hard to strive, not just like one-on-one consulting where we handhold you through the process. Like, where do you have barriers? Okay, you don't have a whole administration team. You can't afford the labor yet. What are tools and resources we could give you at a fraction of the cost it would have done for you to make it, that makes you successful with whatever direction you're going with your practice? So yeah, accreditation can be overwhelming, but I think the big challenge with midwives is we're so action oriented. We want to give great care, but then we're not documenting those normals, where like we attended the policy, the staff meeting, we attended and did a drill. We've done these things, even though we may or may doing them, but you don't have a defense in the legal system, or if there's a question of quality, we just don't have the paper trail to show those amazing outcomes or standards you're holding.
One thing I learned for the 10 years that I served with CABC was a lot of birth centers didn't prep for their site visits very well. And so then they ended up with a lot of things to do. And so this is where I think we can come in and really help, is just help you be prepared for accreditation and help you be prepared for reaccreditation as it comes through, because it's a constant review of your policies and how you are doing that and how you are documenting and demonstrating your safety models. So it's really worth it. It's kind of a pain, but you will be a better birth center because of it.
Yeah. Well, and getting people that mindset of self-employed where I have to do everything versus the business ownership mindset where you leverage your experts, like your budgets, your fee schedules, your structure should be set up to have someone that can be designated to focus on accreditation, focus on quality, like not just hiring a receptionist, office manager. You just like a hospital has all these layers of different departments and resources and billing and marketing and quality. Like and that's part of the challenge is a lot of midwives set up their budgets and fee schedules to have a very bare minimum labor support staff, and a lot of them get burnt out because they're now working overtime because all these other people are expected to do more things than is physically possible with their knowledge and skills and time.
Yeah.
So, Cathy, is there anything else with the accreditation process that you sometimes got questions about or would really help people to streamline and be more successful? Any high level tips you have?
My number one is don't be afraid of it, because it looks scary. Even if you are accredited and you're getting ready for your reaccreditation, it's always good to pick up the phone and talk to them. And if not, talk to us and get another viewpoint, because oftentimes we look at the indicators and we get fearful, like, I'm not going to do that. But it doesn't mean you have to do certain things. It means this is how you prove what you're doing, or you demonstrate. Let me just use that word. And so I highly recommend getting help and not being afraid of accreditation, but embracing it, because it will make you better. And that's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity out there. Birth centers are where I try to focus most of my energy. I love home birth practices, but it's harder to scale up. It's harder, the burnout, like it's harder to handle the highs and lows of maternity leave and all of a sudden things happening in your home life, unless you have a really strong team of collaboration in communities, and many people don't have that yet. But I think birth centers are, and I love helping the women's health clinics where they're like, I don't want to do birth right now. That's wonderful. But to really improve maternity care outcomes and make a big impact and make momentum, we need more birth centers.
I agree. We do. Yeah. We do. We need more birth centers. We need that option for families.
Yeah. So, well, Cathy, I appreciate your time greatly. You are just a wealth of knowledge and I adore you dearly. But yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me and has questions for Cathy, I can send them her way. If there's some resources, people want help with the accreditation process, we love helping people through that, because it can be overwhelming if you're trying to do it on your own for the first time and you've never opened a birth center, you don't understand all these verbiage that maybe is used. You really want to leverage the experts around you. And Cathy and I love helping people with opening birth centers.